it's good. It's a little different. It's so fresh.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, it surprised me. Yeah, she sent out some kind of. She sent out a tweet saying that she was and that she liked it. And I texted her. I said, "Are you serious? Did you bring it up?" Because I thought she was just being nice, you know. No, she said it was good. It was.
Might be a whole new world.
That's a tight roll. I mean, no, citizens.
What were you gonna sit on?
I can get one of these straight here.
I can sit in a straight chair.
5:30.
Take this chair. See that?
It'd probably be here.
Yeah.
It was like this week.
We'll start the streets and drainage committee. Bob, you got the floor.
I'm not gonna have a whole lot tonight in the streets, but the parks is gonna have a little bit more, so we'll be a little bit more brief today. But number one on the agenda is legislative requests, Thornwood Drive maintenance and improvements, and John's here to just explain the.
John, you want to take that, or you want me to, or?
Oh, go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
As you probably realize, Thornwood Drive, the corporation limit for Thornwood Drive, in most cases, is right in the center of Thornwood Drive. So half of Thornwood Drive is owned by the city of Heath. The other half is essentially owned by the county. That makes maintenance a burden. So what the city has done in the last years, they've negotiated with the county, and both the city and the county will take specific measures in regard to certain maintenance on the road. For instance, the county will maintain all of the culverts and all of the bridges, and the city will maintain the surface course of the road. That way it's a lot easier for all of us. So the mayor put together an agreement with the county, and it is actually ordinance number 69, 2014 tonight. This agreement will, as I said, allow the city to take care of the surface course, which will be, of course, all surface maintenance, plowing of snow, and cutting of grass. And the county will take care of the bridge and all of the culverts on the road. The commissioners have already signed the agreement. They've sent it over to the mayor for his signature, but your approval of the agreement is required before he signs it. So that's what ordinance 69, 2014 is tonight. We would also ask that you waive the second reading and pass it on first reading.
We'd like to try to have the agreement signed prior to the Thornwood paving beginning, which it's been delayed, but hopefully that paving will begin very end of August, beginning of September, that kind of time frame. As John said, there's different. What is it, John? I think in whole the city owns 71% of Thornwood Drive, and the county, and then I think Newark had like 7% or something like that. Yeah, and there was questions when we were doing this, when we were putting together the grant request to help pay the city's match for this, and divvying out who was paying the match. We learned how convoluted and complicated this whole thing is with Thornwood Drive, and so we also at that same time had going on the culvert replacement of that old WPA 1930 whatever culvert. And so as it turns out, the county has more funding means available to it to handle bridge and culvert work than what a municipality has. And as it relates to the surface of Thornwood Drive, it is always going to be a it would always be a very, very low priority for the county that Thornwood Drive be resurfaced, because from the Bill Lozier's perspective, Licking County engineer, if he's going to devote funding toward surface pavement projects, he's got to look at the county as a whole. And Thornwood Drive is always going to be held to, the condition of Thornwood Drive is always going to be held to a higher standard by the city than by the county. So it seemed to make sense for us to clear up some of the confusion and assign maintenance responsibilities for Thornwood Drive in both cases. The county will have all of the bridge and culvert responsibilities. We will have surface maintenance, including snow removal and such, on our shoulders. And so that's basically what it spells out. David worked with I don't know who the county's attorney would be, but anyway, worked with them to put together the agreement.
Jeff, you okay with it?
So,
Okay.
other than the high price ticket items, we're doing everything already.
Correct.
We're
Yeah.
plowing snow,
Correct.
we're mowing, so there's really no difference other than we're gaining because of the bridges, the high dollars.
Correct. And also, we are taking away from the county, the agreement would take away from the county the potential to roadblock paving that we would want to have done. Again, because without the agreement, the county would be responsible for X% of the project. They're never going to prioritize paving of Thornwood Drive the way that we will, and would be difficult to get that funding from.
Is there any place in Lincoln County that gives more priority to street maintenance than Heath, Ohio?
That's what, like I said, that was kind of the thinking behind trying to craft an agreement. So yes, Tim, if you would, in caucus, we would like to waive the second reading. The ordinance itself declares the emergency.
Okay, Bob.
So this reflects the other one?
These other
Same,
things,
yeah,
that
it's the
does
same
quickly, things that we can talk about. Again, I think I talked about
This
paint,
signature
thermal
is a
plastic. We have
photocopy.
received all that so far this year. We just received paint last week, so a little bit late getting started on doing some of the painting, but that will happen by in the fall. So you'll see us doing that on the streets eventually. We've been spending a lot of time patchwork on the various streets. We had a lot to do on Cynthia Street. Some of the other streets, we cut it out and patched it. You know, it seems like the asphalt just isn't lasting as long as some of the others have in the past, so we have a lot of repair work. Of course, we have less money for paving too, so speaking of paving, we will have quite a bit of money next year, since we didn't spend any this year. We'll combine those almost 2.5 years that we've saved to do significant paving next year, so we'll have that list out eventually. We'll probably start a list this fall, and then we may have to change a little bit in the spring to see what happens during the winter. You know, it could be anywhere between 400,000 and 500,000 or more than we have left in there from our taxes. So we get about $150,000 a year. So we'll have to go a couple of years before we get enough money paid enough. So that will be coming up. When I have that list, I will show that to you.
You have a list in the next couple months.
Yeah, we'll have one before winter starts, and then like I said, we might change if the winter is hard again. Some places get worse. The dump truck being close to being delivered. The company wanted paid. You know, I guess the dump truck is in, but the bed hasn't come in. Of course, we can't. Dump truck's no good for us unless we have a bed. But the dump truck company wanted us to pay him. I was like, well, I'm not going to pay anyone until I get the truck. So that's usually how things work, you know. So I thought I was a little surprised by how they reacted, but it was really a salesman. I think he wanted his commission. So we nixed that. But so we're waiting for that to come in. We're hoping again within a month or so that will be here and done.
Bob, is the dump truck seller different than the
Yeah.
bed?
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it's we had to do two separate purchase orders.
okay.
The speed monitor on 79, Dave did check that out, and the battery needs to be replaced. He said that will be done this week. I was trying to get him to do it quicker, but that's when it's going to be done. So eventually you'll see how fast you are going to come off of 16.
It wasn't working today.
In the Heath, yeah.
That's the one right across from Meritor.
Yeah, right.
It probably doesn't pick up speeds, Tim, of 85.
It stops at
There's
50.
There's only three digits. There's only two digits on the thing,
I make
Tim.
a flash every day. I make a flash when I go by.
This one down here, we're still with.
Yeah, because that one's
Yeah.
hooked up to electric.
Ah,
Yeah.
Up there is solar.
Solar, so we need a battery. Other items, the streetlight pole on 79th and Hopewell that I've been talking about in front of Chipotle, that will be moved on Thursday. And it'll take almost a full day. I think they have already contacted the police department for traffic control. But that will be a big effort that day.
What time are they starting that?
Probably in the morning.
If you get that chance, Bob, to maybe nail that down a little bit more, let's use the city's Facebook and Twitter accounts to get the word out on that. Hmm?
What about your emergency?
I'll see. I'll think about that. I mean, I want to be careful with that threshold, right? Jan was suggesting perhaps maybe using the all-call, the Blackboard Connect system that we have. I guess what I'm thinking, Jan, is I don't want to overuse that. I don't want
But
people
that's a
to
major
begin to see it
intersection.
as a nuisance.
Yeah, it's just a major intersection, to notify people in advance. I just see what some of the other cities, I'm getting some information from other cities and they're doing that, just a suggestion.
Okay.
And it wouldn't have to be very elaborate.
Well,
either,
and with
just to
that
say
system,
police.
we can also target a portion of this. Like we could target the east side. Since that's a lot of people come that way down Hopewell Drive.
Yeah.
We can pick areas of the city that we send it to, and not others.
It's just a major
Yeah.
intersection.
I got one last question on the dump truck.
Uh-huh.
Are we taking any, with regard to the bed and maybe the parts that were rusting, are we taking any rust proofing measures with this particular truck that we didn't, that we haven't taken with previous purchases?
I don't know what they're rust proofing the bed or not. I don't know.
Sound like a good idea?
Well, keeping them clean is a great idea, but having salt in your bed all the time doesn't do it good. So, I don't know. I'd have to check to see if they do some kind of rust oiling or something on there. That I don't know.
Seems like awfully low miles on a diesel engine, and
Well, they're all going to be low miles because you don't drive it; you just drive it in town. You're always going to have
but
low
it seems
miles.
like the rest of the
It's
vehicle
metal,
literally
and
deteriorates
salt.
around.
Metal and salt does not go well together.
That's why I'm suggesting rust proofing.
I will ask them and see if they're
I think
doing
any
it.
company that rust proof won't guarantee you more than 90 days on those.
Oh, really?
Because it's commercial.
Well,
They probably do something.
that's no guarantee at all. My goodness, if the thing starts rusting in 90 days, that's wow.
There's got to be a commercial application, I'm suggesting.
I would think
for
so.
a
I think
use.
Rhino Shield.
We've got a serious investment in a dump truck, and I don't know, it just seems like,
Well, it may be coded. I don't know. I just don't know that part of it.
I'd like to
I'll
look,
have the specs
certainly
in
like
front
us
of
to
me.
look into that, so we get a little longer life out of this dump truck than we've had in previous ones, that's all.
Okay. Anything else for Bob?
Yeah, I noticed the Licking View Drive has really suffered over last winter, and if we have a bad winter this year, it's going to be in bad shape for spring,
We will. That's one of the roads we are going to pave.
That's good.
And some of the roads, as I've said, I think I want to expand the paving on the, a little bit further out because I watch people drive and it's crazy. But we got the white line there, but if they go around a curve, they don't follow the road. They just drive right in the berm.
Yeah.
I see it all the time, and our berm just gets wiped out, and then it starts to crumble. And maybe if we add another
Foot
foot,
and a half.
maybe I don't know.
But it,
I think we need to take some driving.
Go farther.
And cement blocks right there on the edge.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
they
can
go
put metal
another
stakes and
foot
stuff
farther.
right there. That might
That's
work.
what Joe Hall said about, I told you that contractor messed up that berm.
Yeah.
He said, they start turning right when they passed Whispering Pines. I believe he would.
And we are also, soon is gonna test for a new street department employee. Mary, you wanna say anything about the foreman?
Yeah, Dave Pennington, who's forming the street department, is retiring. He will be leaving the department at the end of September. We had posted for promotion. We had one individual put in for it. I've written a letter requesting from civil service that they allow us to waive the testing and that, because the fact we only have one person that's put in for the promotion. Once that has been approved, which I hope it will be, we can then announce who that is, and we can commence the process of then backfilling that person's spot within the department. So Dave's done a really good job in that position. He'll be missed, but does he have 30, Bob?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so he's certainly, he's certainly been with us for quite a while.
That's all I have.
Nothing else to adjourn at 5:46.
I still can't hear. I'm sorry. I still can't hear. I can't hear a word you're saying. Say it louder if you want to tell me back in the back room, but I can't, huh? Oxy? I don't know. I have no idea.
All right, moving on.
I'll let you wait. Okay. Did you hear it? Huh? I don't know. I don't know.
All right, if we're ready.
Well,
He's wanting to know who in the hell
Yeah.
got the job.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and call Parks, Recreation, and Data Shade to order at 5:46. Bob, first item is the pool closure and update.
We'll close Sunday, so we're done for the year. The full report, won't be complete till maybe September, and maybe even as late as October because of gas and electric. We get those bills so much later. But I can tell you a little bit of what's happened from this year. The pool memberships from last year are down $11,000. We were hitting a high of around 190, and this year was 138. Last year was 149. The last 3 or 4 years of the pool, with storms and 17 days of rain in a row and a tornado and losing electric and different things like that. And this year is just, it's been a beautiful summer, but not for the pool. It's been cooler. We've had a lot of rain. I mean, I've had to mow every 4 days probably since April in my yard, so that means that it is raining a lot. So our memberships were down 11,000 from last year. And this is up to date from Sunday. So I have put all this in. We were up in walk-ins, and that's what usually happens if memberships are down. Walk-ins can go up a little bit, and we were up about 13,000 on that. Concessions were almost exactly the same. Swim lessons were the same. The difference last year we received, and I know it's in here somewhere, but around $30-some thousand from our insurance company because of the days we were closed.
Oh yeah, from the
storm. So that is a lot of the difference in what has happened. Last year we brought in $430,000, which was our worst year of all time. And this year it looks like we will not even top 400. Though our expenses hopefully are going to be down because we weren't open as much, but the minimum wage was increased again. So we do not have, now as of this moment, we are $121,000 ahead. But that does not include the last payment of the debt service, which we've only paid 16,000 of the 140,000, whatever it is now. So that's 124,000 that's got to come off, and we have another payroll. I think we will probably meet our operating cost, but we will not meet the debt service cost again this year. Pool's weather related, so I just wanted to give you a heads up before I give a final report. But there weren't any other unusual, expenses that I can see from the prior year. Of course, we get the debt service paid off, and we probably should be able to meet our operating costs through the years. But it looks like maybe if this weather continues, and I think the attendance of the pool is going down some, that we may have to put part of the debt service or some of the debt service in our budget, to make sure that it's paid, because I don't think we're going to be paying it out of the pool much anymore. Looks like to me, unless we have some really good summers. A good day now for us, maybe it's 1,500 people. When we did the improvements of the pool, we had as many as 3,000 or 4,000 a day. Those numbers are delivered. And I just think people are, we haven't done anything new to the pool, and we haven't done anything new to the pool because council decided to pay the debt service out of the pool profits. So we haven't had any money to do any new things, but we have paid, well over $1 million back in the debt service through the years. So I just think, things are changing a little bit. Who has time to go to the pool as much as they used to? And, if you have any great ideas, you can throw them out at me. But the pool was pretty much weather related. And the weather hasn't been very good for the last 3 or 4 years. So before I give the final report, which it'll be next meeting or the meeting after that, I just want to give you a bit of a heads up. I don't see any other really much income coming in for the rest of the year. Sometimes we get some money back from POP or some concession supplies. It looks like we may be under 400,000, but that'll be the first. We've had as high as 600,000 before, and it's been hovering around 500,000 before. If it was below 500,000, we thought we'd have a bad year. But it looks like we may not hit 400. So that's all I have on the report.
Okay, anybody have any questions about that?
The dog paddle, which I was not there, and it sounds like the mayor went there, but Becky, you want to talk about the dog paddle
Sure.
along here?
We had over 320 paid dogs, made over $6,000 so far, excuse me, and 865 people were there. Great turnout again, lots of good comments. I'm just glad I showed up Saturday to find out what I was walking into on Sunday, but we had to change our location of how to get in. Yeah, I know, I wish you would have too. I encouraged Deb to bring her father to the dog paddle. Saturday afternoon, I found out we couldn't use the same entrance because of the 2 spots going through our normal area.
Oh,
So-
that's where we had the concrete out.
Yes,
That's
so luckily I stopped by there and Phil went over things with me and he says, nobody's thought about this but me. So he took me out, walked me through, told me this is what he would do, what he would do, what he would do, and we kind of ran with it. Actually, it was better for everybody that was working because we could watch what was going on. When we're behind the building, you can't see anything. So it was more fun for the workers. However,
So where was the entrance?
we used the black fence at the end of the at the lazy river.
Yeah, okay.
And we built a section. See, we make it so that there's 2 gates so that a loose dog can't get in or out.
Yeah.
So we have a gate system that we bring down and add to what your gate was.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to, if we're gonna be there next year, we're gonna switch it so we have an in and an out. Most of us like that location because we're in the grass, but we just weren't prepared to have people directing the dog paddle traffic to that area. So they were still coming in the other way and crossing through. So if we do that again, we should change a few things, or get cones and caution tape and have some stuff like that. But other than that, it worked out wonderful. Everybody had a good time. Just that little upset of not being able to go through there. So, and you could have taken him through the pool though.
Could have?
Yes, that you could. There is a section that we make a gate section so people can go to the bathroom. And
He was in a wheelchair and that grass was not very friendly.
Yeah,
to
and
him.
when she
I
showed
talked
up,
him
there
over
was
a
really
couple
nobody to
times.
help
I
her
said,
get him
"That's it.
across.
I'm not gonna dump
But,
him out here. We're
yeah.
just gonna leave."
But did he get to see some of it, Dad?
A little bit, yeah.
Was the
It was a good experience for him.
yeah.
It was very friendly for dogs.
Oh yes,
Yeah,
it's the
it
most
was.
friendly day you'll ever see. So it's a good time, and Channel 4 showed up before it was over. So I don't know what they had on, but they interviewed Shelley and
Oh, John Geller said something about that, I think.
yeah, and
Nice piece.
yeah, and it was on Channel 10 on Saturday.
Oh, that's what Bob said. Bob said he saw it on
Yes.
Channel 10.
And Channel 4 showed up and took an interview and went inside and took pictures and stuff, so. And the one girl took over 500 pictures and had to go out and sit down and take a break, and she had filled her card up, so.
How much money was raised again, please?
Over 6,000, we're still waiting on a couple corporate checks to come in.
Did that attendance exceed any year in the past?
Yes, it is the most attendance, yes. As far as people, I mean, we've had 325 dogs one year, and we really think there were more dogs, but we think a few got in before, well, maybe, not sure. There was a little bit of chaos getting started, and people were coming early, so you kind of have, the gate system and having somebody ready to go is hard to have everybody on point at the right time, so.
Yeah, that concrete was tore up because of the leak that we had, and then after the pool closed, they were coming back in and
That's what he
fixing
said.
that, so.
Well, he said they might be picking up another spot.
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah, I'm not aware of that either. It seems like we got the leak.
Oh, okay. He was saying there was lots of 90s in there is why that happened,
Yeah,
so.
that's why
But
they
it would have
had
been, treacherous for us to use it. With the dogs and people walking through there, it would not have been fun, so.
I only heard of one story the whole time.
Really?
That one aggressive dog, but to have that many dogs there,
Yeah, it's amazing.
that
Yeah.
there weren't a dog fight
Yeah,
somewhere
yeah.
was
We
incredible.
have never had any problem. The only time we did was when they brought a mother dog and someone else from the Humane Society. They brought some dogs that were they were going to adopt. We included them, and their two dogs were the only ones that fought, and it was because they had a mother dog. I mean, she just had puppies. You don't do that. You don't take her out, Sorry, but, so anyway, no fights, all good.
I think it's so well managed with animal control because
Yeah.
I remember the one year, a couple dogs started to go, I mean, they pounced on them within,
Yes.
made it seem like
Yeah.
seconds,
Yes.
it was just like boom, and that was
Yes.
the end of that, so. it's
And
very well
with the
controlled.
animal shelter being behind it, they check everybody as they come in. So they're checking license tags. They're like the beginning people, and then they send them on to go pay to get in. So
And you're kind of seeing their temperament as they're coming through the
Yes.
gate, so
Oh,
if you saw
yes.
some
yes.
concerns, you probably.
And Riggs the Saint Bernard, Briggs, he showed
Briggs,
up too.
yeah.
Yep. There was actually two Saint
I didn't
Bernards.
see his thing on
He had it, but his picture's in the paper.
Is
But
it? Okay.
they put it
I
on him
saw
when he
it
was
wasn't on
walking
there,
through.
yeah.
So.
His bourbon barrel?
No,
No.
it's a
Zebra print
inner tube.
Oh,
Floaty
a
that
zebra
they
print
on it.
put around him when he walks through. It's
Okay.
he was in our what they did on the Advocate,
Yeah.
the press release. He was in that, but we've got him last year with the ring around his neck, and he's in the little baby pool. It's hilarious. And I always ask people as they leave, did you have a good time? Did you enjoy yourself? Oh yes, we'll be back next year, blah, blah, blah. So it's good, yeah, all good.
The video on the Advocate's website of the dog rolling around in the ice in the little plastic bag. Oh my gosh, is that funny?
Yeah.
Oh,
That dog was just.
He was
amazing
loving
to
that.
watch. He loved that ice.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's something else.
Alright,
Got a kick out of that.
anything else on the dog paddle? Yes.
Not on dog paddle, but on the parks. Saturday, I was over at Granville to the concert on the green. And I've been over there several other times, but that is such a nice event.
Where was it, in Granville?
Yes. They had a Beatles tribute band, and they have different venues all through the year. And it's something similar to what they have in Pickerington. And it's just so nice, Pickerington especially.
Where was the event in Granville?
They're on Broadway, Burke's Hall, close to Burke's Hall.
Okay.
Yeah, they've been doing that for a long
Yeah,
time, every summer.
I forget, that's 6 times that group have been there, 6 years. But it's just such a nice event. I would love to see us have something like that. Now, in Pickerington, Giant Eagle is the main sponsor, and then they have different, like a bank will sponsor one weekend.
Is that violin festival?
No, this is Sycamore Creek Park. They have every Sunday, 7 o'clock, they have an hour and a half. They'll have somebody come in before Chris Logan does one weekend. And in the same place, they have movies on like Friday or Saturday night. But they have a really neat program set up. And it's always, every time I've ever been there, it's been a good crowd. And it's all family friendly, and they have like a natural amphitheater and then the stage down at the bottom. And if you look at Butler Park where the sled ride, that'd be the perfect place for the stage down at the bottom.
You had some concerns about having something like that at Geller Park.
Well, it'd be difficult to charge admission. You know, 'cause it's a public park, and
there is no
It's in it.
well, yeah.
At Sycamore.
Yeah, if you can get a sponsor to do it, that's
Yeah,
that's
that-
great.
Yeah.
But then you
I
have to
think the
have
only other thing would be
everything
electric.
For the electric, there's no electric.
You'd have to somehow run electric down. Either from where a lot of the vendors are for Star Spangled, you'd have to run it that way, or up on top of the hill, there's electric. You'd have to run it down from there. So you'd have to address the power concern, but I don't think it would be unsolvable.
Nice event.
Our church had a full-length movie Sunday evening, 5. Opened up the whole hall door. And a sanctuary with this balcony full, seats about 1,000. It was pretty well filled up. And what they do, rather than
This was
charging-
inside Cletus?
And what they do is to charge you admission, they, different groups in church, they buy the pop and popcorn and make it a donation, whatever you're gonna pay for it, and that goes to that project. Worked out real good.
All right, moving on to ash tree removal.
Alright, I think I said something last time I was here that AP through Splendid is going around and eliminating all ash trees that are around power lines. So we've been contacted in several places around the bike path near the high school and down Forty Preserve. There are a few that they're going to have access to get down in there. I have to just sign something and let them know they can go down in there. But it really helps us that it's done. We're losing. We have 2 ice trees. Well, we have more than that. We have a Marshall seedless ice tree that has been dying. We probably have 3 or 4 ice trees in the park. That 2 of them, at least 3 of them, look really bad right now. So we're going to lose them all. And then this guy from Splendid was telling me that there's something going on with some of the maples now. So that would be horrible if that happened.
Christmas.
But there's always some tree that seems like it's getting attacked. Now, last winter, a lot of our pine trees that we have in the park, especially behind the ball field, they're all dying. So it's been tough for the trees there. But the ash trees that we had were beautiful ash trees. They're dying. So not much you can do about it. So anyway, they're going to start removing some of those trees, and I think they have completed everything they're going to do in Heath as far as the parks goes that I know of.
And that'll all be at their cost.
Yes. They'll leave the wood there. I mean, if you want the wood, or anybody can take it. The next thing is, I mentioned this last time too, capital improvements. It is the #1 item to replace the roof at the Gillard Park, the maintenance building. We built that building around 1980. So what's that make it, 34 years. I think we did the street department roof a year and a half ago or so, and that was built in 75. So we went through the same company. It is a state bid. They gave us a price of $33,450. In the capital improvements, I had it listed for 50, so it's almost 16,000 less than what we had anticipated. This company did the street department, like I said, a year and a half ago. Did a great job. There's a local company that does it, and then they go through the state bid process, and Duralast is the one that has the bid, and they will be doing the work. So it's something that we have to have done at the park. Like I said, we've got almost 35 years out of it, and I have a legislative request for $33,450 within the capital improvement fund, authorizing the director of mayor to enter into a contract with Duralast Roofing to re-roof the park maintenance building. Then I would like to waive the second reading when this is on the agenda the next time, because it takes 6 weeks to get materials in, and we would like to have it completed before winter sets.
The company's okay with that time frame, Bob?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, as long as we can get this through. And we had went through all the estimates and bid process the last time, and they were the low ones last time. So it worked out.
All right. Anything, City of Heath 50th anniversary.
Well, I think that's why we have our guest here, Jan, to talk about, and John, to talk about the city's 50th anniversary. And I do want to say that in 1965, I was 11 years old, and I rode in the first city. We had a parade. It was in April, but I still think baseball hadn't started. But I still think they put our baseball team in the parade and won the championship. We rode on a fire truck, and I was 11. So
What kind of meant you want to run on fire truck?
that's right. And I was, and back then I was pretty bad. I probably made it all stuff.
And you want us to believe it'll be different? All right. Jan, John, I don't know who's
If
gonna
he
start.
thinks that's bad, I'm older than the city. That doesn't help at all, does it, John?
2015 is going to be a really big year for the city regarding events. In April, we have the 50th anniversary. In May, we have our Armed Forces Day Parade. In July, we have the Star Spangled Celebration. When you shift to fall and winter, we have the Halloween event here. We have the Christmas event here. This doesn't include anything that the David Shai House has. Now, those 5 events that I just mentioned, they're all organized and staffed by volunteers. Also, all of those events are paid for through the volunteers' money or from the sponsors' money. Now, next year we have so many of them that staff and sponsors can't pay for it all. And we are going to need assistance. And the reason we're here tonight is Jan and the mayor and I have talked this over, and we have come up with some proposed figures that we think, they're basically, they're guesses on our part as what it would take to perform some of these events. And we have to start planning for these events now. And we can't really plan for the events unless we know we have the backing of council in regard to financial support. Does that make sense so far, Jan? Okay. So, what we propose is
She
that-
didn't say anything. That's like the
That's
first.
the quietest
I know.
What happened to Jan Wilkin? Where is she? Who are you?
Look out, John.
This is when she gives me the look, I know I'm supposed to stop. What we are proposing, and again, we don't know where to draw the line, and these are just guesstimates on our part, but do a nice job on the city's 50th anniversary. And we're talking.
Moderate, John.
No,
Moderate.
not
That's what
moderate, modest.
Oh,
We
modest.
use
Is that what it's
moderate.
supposed to be?
Modest, yes.
Okay, I have to learn that word they said.
We're looking at a modest/moderate type celebration. Not something that goes on for 4 weeks and you have fireworks every day and we have signs with the council person's names on them and stuff like that, or bow riding in a parade. But we would like to have available to us $7,500 to put together this event. And we hope that will be enough to do everything that the citizens of Heath would like to see in regard to how 50-year anniversary is celebrated within the city. In regard to the parade, last year, the parade, thanks to Jan's work more than anyone else's, was paid for entirely through sponsors and private donations. And it was extremely difficult to do this. A lot of you may not realize this, but a lot of the units in the parade, we had to pay their transportation fees for them to come here. Some of the bands, a lot of the military vehicles. There was a lot of preparation where we got things ready at the park. All of these things required funding that were paid for through private individuals and sponsors. Because we have the Star Spangled Celebration so close to the parade, we're double dipping, and it's really difficult to do. And what we're asking council to do for that parade is to provide us with $10,000 to cover the costs. Now, again, we don't know. Last year, we looked at last year's figures. We look at all the requests that we have for participation this coming year. And we think that's a pretty good figure to work with. We can't plan these events unless we know the money is there, because we have to commit to all of these people. We can't commit unless we know we can provide the funding that's necessary. So we're asking you tonight if you would consider funding those two events to the amount that I specified. Jan?
As John has expressed, it is difficult because some of the people are saying, they're being hit so much for money, and they're trying to be generous, but at some particular point, I think we have to be careful that the city present itself the best way possible too. And it's not necessarily saying we're going to spend all of that. We need some kind of a target amount. You don't want to go into a commitment and then not have the funds to fulfill the commitment, and you have to drop them out. I think that's really an embarrassing thing, and you don't know how to plan. So it was very, very tough. We were able to accomplish it, but if we're going to do it again this next year, I think we need to start thinking about these kind of things. As far as the 50th is concerned, I've just wrote down a few things, and John and the mayor and I have talked about this. One thing that we want to do is take the city's logo, and we're not going to change the logo, but we are going to add the concept of the 50th with that for 1 year, and that way it's kind of a souvenir type year with whatever we're going to be doing, and that will be the key logo for the 50th. We talked about I've talked with Bob about, we need to really make sure that our islands and things like that are top notch next year, and I know that he's working with that as far as funding is concerned, because and even this year, I think it's been beautiful to walk or to drive into the city and see those islands the way they really are. It has a strong impression on you. And I think if we do that, we could also include our businesses, particularly along 79. If the city's going to have a celebration, I think, as I've talked with Mark and John, we need to bring the businesses into this as well. And there were a couple of ways of doing that. One is, to get them to do some beautification, because it is a special year. We do the banners along Route 79, and that will have the same concept as whatever we work with the logo, and the concept of the 50th, that would help. And then the bridge over here, if we can decorate the bridge, and do a banner across that. We've talked, I don't know, the mayor mentioned something about the shirts for a year, having the 50th as a possibility.
Our employees wear, you've probably seen them, our employees wear a neon colored shirt, which, this time of year, they don't wear any jackets or anything over them. They wear these t-shirts in lieu of having to then wear vests or anything like that. Those t-shirts have this city logo on them. as Jan said, the idea being maybe something like, 50th anniversary across the top of this, 1965, 2015, underneath, something like that.
Yeah, and we'll come up with a couple of concepts and then we'll make decisions based on that. Anybody can help make those decisions. I also told the mayor that they, at the Shai House, when I was there, when we had our 5th and our 10th anniversary, we had the seals that we put on letters that went out, and they're not expensive. I mean, you can get a buku number of them for less than $100. So I recommended that the important letters that go out, that we keep that all consistent, so that you begin to tell people right from the beginning that this is a special year for the city, and it really is. Now, as far as the celebration itself, and Mark, one thing that I didn't mention is I think we need to be doing next year close to the actual date, which is April the 15th, and I think that's on a Wednesday, that we ought to be doing some articles in the paper about the history of Heath. That's a possibility, but we have to make a decision, or you have to make a decision, whether you want to have it on the actual date. I think you looked it up, was on a Wednesday, or whether to have it on a Saturday. The mayor prefers Saturday so that we could do a designated day. Now, if you do that designated day, then again, let's get the businesses, and I said, let's get the businesses active in this thing and see if they will, we can call it Heath Day, and they can give a % off of the restaurants or the, some of the stores or something like that. At least invite them to participate. Another thing I would like to do is contact the different service groups and at least get a representative, so that it's not just one group, but you spread this out. If it's going to be a city anniversary, then we could have the event here. I think this is the appropriate place to have it. I can talk with the Campbells, and we could put the windows up out here in the lobby. We can do some kind of a display about the city's history out there. We can start gathering that in. I know there are people in Heath that have some of that history. We can incorporate that, start requesting, not advertising, but requesting some of it, and then a group can get together and put it together. I think every department ought to participate. It would be nice on the day of celebration that you have some of your equipment from each one of your departments out here for people to look at. I said the police department could get the little trinkets of the badges, and the fire department kids love the hats. They're not that expensive. The city needs to come up with some kind of a souvenir for its 50th, and it can be sold. It doesn't have to be given away. I mean, it's just something that people will want to keep down through the years, because this is a special year. So there's a lady who did a cake for us at the Shai House when I was there. It was unbelievable. It's 3-dimensional. We can get in contact with her to have a special cake made, or we can do one that's just a flat one. It depends on price. I know hers, she gave it to us at a very, very reasonable price, but those are things that we have talked about, and and the mayor talked about having, what was it, a resolution or a...
Yeah, I thought maybe it would be neat to have this body, as part of that celebration, have a special council meeting, official council meeting on that day, for really no other purpose than to pass a resolution that you all would sign, that I would sign. But I also thought it would be neat if we could have some research done and some outreach done, and try to have as many former Heath City Council members as we can come and sign as honorary signers of that resolution, and to have as many former mayors as we can come back and sign as honorary signers of that resolution. I thought it might be a neat way to kind of, bridge this 50 years that we're celebrating. So that was a suggestion that I threw out there.
The main thing is to capture the history, and share it. I know we've talked about the hardest thing is to get people to come to something like this. So we'll have to pull something out of our hat to come up with that. But I'll tell you one thing that will help it would be having the department's vehicles here and handing out things to children. That's an attraction to kids, or to families, so that's just something to consider. We also could do a PowerPoint, we could do a very brief, an abbreviated program type thing, just hitting the highlights of the city's history that could become part of what you hand out on that particular day. So those are preliminary thoughts. They're not final thoughts. It's just, what can we do, and do it within, some reason, because obviously the parade is going to take a powerful lot of work. We set the bar for that parade pretty high last year, Jack.
Yeah, we did.
So I expect you to be flying.
Do you want to introduce Jack? I'm not sure everybody knows who Jack
Jack,
is.
Jack Bickley. He is from the veterans, Vietnam veterans. And he was actually the one last year that went to John and the mayor and asked if we would consider, or if the city would consider joining the parade, and that was based on Halloween.
Yeah.
When you guys were out here, and I told him to prepare for 200, and you got 1,364. So I think what it was, I think, Jack, it was payback. But anyway, he's really the one responsible, and I have
The Vietnam veterans have the Huey helicopter
Yeah, the
that we
helicopter.
see often at the Star Spangled Celebration. Jack and his group actually is responsible for that helicopter, and they do a great job of making it available to the city for various events that we have. It was actually Saturday morning, it was out at the airport for the Experimental Aircraft Association's annual fly-in breakfast. They were kind enough to bring it out there too, so thanks for that, Jack.
And,
Their organization's one that built the Vietnam Veterans Memorial over the Yellow Park.
Yeah.
Howard Myers and I worked with them on that, and they're probably the best ex-military organization in the county.
I agree.
They really,
Well, we try to do
they really
everything
help
for the
us.
vets.
Yeah.
Anything,
Provided
because we've been
care,
saying,
for PTSD. They bridged him through till he could get into a hospital.
well, we've got a saying that we won't let any vet go like they did us.
That's right.
That's a no-no.
Yeah.
We won't allow it.
And I can attest to that, because when the parade came last year, Jack had just gotten out of the hospital. I said, buddy, you better be at that parade. And he was. But it was very, we actually, John and I said that would be the only one we did now. I said, don't ever say you won't do something again. But anyway, that's kind of the thought. You've already talked with the people with the planes,
At
right?
Mott's, yeah, I've already talked to the Mott's people.
And I know that Rachel Campbell has been in contact about the moving Vietnam Wall. Help me.
Well, we've also got a wall that we've made up ourselves of all the men who got killed, I think in the Vietnam War, or I think that's what it is, of all the people who got killed in Licking County.
And before I pursue anything with the Firelands group and the tank, I'll use that angle, obviously, that this is our 50th, so it's not just important to be on our first,
Right.
and we'll do the best that we
But
can.
any of the organizations will help with anything that, for the 50th anniversary. They're here to stay, and I mean, we don't have to bring equipment, but we can bring men.
In April, I have spoken with April at the Veterans Service Organization, and they are working on doing some special things for us to help us out next year, and they would take care again of all the flyers. All of those colored flyers were paid for by their organization, and I'm not talking about a small amount. And they will help with the advertising.
They did radio spots, I remember.
Right,
Yeah.
and I have another gentleman that I'm working with, and I won't go into that because I know Doug likes surprises, and I can't make sure that I can get it. But it would cost $10,000, Doug, and we wouldn't have to pay a cent. So that really was enough to Now he'll bug me. He'll come across when I'm mowing and say, Jan, now what was that?
Let me summarize just a little bit here. We're talking about two separate events, and two separate commitments of funds. So let's first talk about the 50th celebration. You may not have gleaned this after listening to Jan's comments, but I have instructed her to keep the 50th modest. And you know, that's that. I had to get the dictionary out to show her what the explanation of that, or what the definition of that was.
I will try. I will really try.
And I do think that it is important. It's a very important milestone for the city. We should all be proud of it. We should all celebrate it. We get one chance at doing this. It ought to be something that we all can walk away from having been proud to be a part of, and that the people of Heath and beyond who come to join us in this celebration will remember. We get one chance to do this thing right. And I think it's worth the effort to try to make that happen. In regards to the parade, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to describe how proud I was that day, this past May, of what we accomplished. An awful lot of people worked really hard prior to the event, and certainly the day of the event. And you could tell, I didn't need anybody to write a letter to me afterward, although we certainly received our fair share from various groups that participated in that parade. I didn't need to receive any letters to know that we were really putting our best foot forward as a city with the Armed Forces Day Parade. It was a fantastic theme to celebrate, recognizing those people who are serving us currently in the armed forces. It was an extremely well organized event. There's no doubt in my mind it's the best parade that Licking County has seen in a very, very long time. And I think Heath had expressed that to me, and some others had expressed that to me who have participated in a number of parades in Licking County for a long time. It was fantastic. I think Heath has an opportunity to capitalize on the success of last year and to stand out, not just in Licking County, but in this region, as it relates to our celebration of Armed Forces Day and what that day means. I cannot imagine anybody that participated in that parade walking away thinking, well, boy, I'll never do that again because that was a mess. Absolutely not. But it is an undertaking. It was extremely stressful on the group that organized that event to make sure that they could obtain the funding for it. We can build on that success that we have, and not to necessarily de-emphasize the effort to fundraise, but to relieve pressure on that effort. If we could have the city's strong backing of this event, on top of a fundraising effort that comes close to what we had for this year's event, man, we could really do some special things. Some special things. I think, and Jackie can maybe chime in on this, we had great support from area veterans organizations.
Most all the organizations around, all the clubs donated to the cause, and they were there.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest thing for me to accept. we were supposed to be doing it for them, and then when it was the, I thought about it and I thought, this doesn't seem right, and I really emotionally.
They wanted to.
I know, but I struggled with it, Jack. I really struggled, and I'll tell you who convinced me was Pat, who was with the Firelands military. He said, Jan, let them do it. And I said, well, I'm having a struggle with this. I said, we're supposed to be recognizing them, and the thing is, if the city got to look at how difficult it is when you go out and you can't say that the city's contributing anything, and you're saying to Bowie, I need $900 from you, and I need $600 from you, and I need, that
But
really.
you gotta look at it
doesn't-
this way, Jan. They were doing it for the vets.
I know.
That's the
I know,
reason
I
why.
know.
Well,
They
part
was
of the
doing
problem
it
too
for
is
the
the
vets.
stress that the mayor suggested comes from having to go out and literally beg for this.
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to avoid.
And decisions were having to be made literally the week before.
Yeah.
And that's rough, just rough. So
In the state
you
of
need a support, you needed some support there, not necessarily saying we'd spend it all, but, we've got to have a comfort zone if we're going to have a decent parade. There's a lot of huge decisions. We've got to look at, our routing and all the communication and everything that goes on. I'm trying to do as much with that with email as possible. And quite frankly, I have not really gotten started until after we find out how you feel about it, whether you want the parade. But that really needs to start. I've got a group that I'm taking to Washington, D.C. in early September, and after that, that's when I would be starting, because I had to start too late last year. Jack waited too long.
Now, are we talking 7,500 and a 10,000, or just a 10,000?
Correct. We're talking about two separate events here, with two separate efforts for organizing those events. Yes.
I guess I see, a balance between the fundraising and, the support from the city, because I think that there's more of a buy-in from the community if they are part of contributing to that.
Yep.
I think we do need that. I think we need them to be involved. But I guess I have a couple questions. Looking at like 7,500, are we going to be able to get something like, I know you don't know exact costs and things, but what I would like to see is just like if you're writing a grant, tentatively, these are the kinds of things we're looking at. We're looking at this for this line item, this for this line item.
We haven't had time to do that yet.
Okay,
That
'cause
we
I
wanted
think-
to find out whether this council was serious enough, for us to invest that kind of time. Yes, I mean, I would call and check on the cost of the cake. We would come up with a decision on the souvenir. You've got a preliminary cost of that. And then if you can sell them, you'll get some of that back.
Right, and like I said, I know
mean,
it's
those
not
kind of
exact.
things,
It's
I understand.
kind of
But
getting an
but
idea.
at the same time, that what you do is you can establish that what's not used goes back. And we just don't use it, period. We determined that we did not want to have an event that costs more than that. We didn't feel that it was necessary to cost more than that. It may cost $5,000. I don't know at this point.
And where are we gonna take the money from? That's my next question.
That's up to you guys. I mean,
I'm looking at him, because I'm assuming he's got an
It'd be
idea.
part of the general fund budget. It'd be part of the budgetary process.
you just may build it in, don't you,
Yeah.
Keith? Build it into your
One-time
budget.
deal.
That's my thought.
And
That's
see
why,
something-
that's why we were talking
I think
about
we
it
ought to
now,
do it.
is because you have
I
to
think
build
we
it
ought to
in.
support both.
And then, you work, Keith and I have worked
What do you think?
effectively, I think, through that whole process once before. That's why he has less hair up there.
I think
I've always
too,
wondered.
I
That's
think
highly been determined.
I think speaking about the parade, and Jeff and I were part of being up there when the floats and that came in, and it was well. John put it together great.
Phenomenal,
How it was
wasn't it?
dismantled at the end, and I really believe that by us showing the support for the parade and for the celebration, I think that that's something that would kick off maybe helping to get others to donate.
But
It
then
would make the effort it's a lot easier to make the ask when you can say, hey, the city's got skin in the
Yes.
game too.
That's right.
Yeah, there's no doubt about
That's
that.
right. And that's how I feel about it.
And that was kind of a tough one last year,
Yeah.
that was really a tough one, because, I said, we're not asking for anything, but it was all new. I mean, we had to see
Yeah.
what was gonna happen. And we were really, really fortunate. You know, I had to do a lot of begging, but, you know, even the potato chip people said, well, I'll tell you what, you buy so much and we'll give you some. And I'll do that again, but what if they tell me, I'm just using that as an example, what if you say no? Then I have nothing to fall back on, and you know, it's just, and one thing I'll tell you, the veterans from out of town told me, and I'm sure they felt the same way here, said they had never, Pat wrote a beautiful letter, you got a copy of it, and he said he'd never been to a parade where they actually took care of the needs of the people before and after, what that meant. We did, I don't know whether you shared a copy of the letter from the Husky Foundation in Canada that really is responsible for the tank, but it was a beautiful letter on how excited they were to find out about small town towns.
What was was it Your Excellency? Was that what?
I think
My worthy, yeah, my worship, my worship. Yes, yeah, they're from Canada, right? So they're, you know, wow, like this.
and say, who is that? And how much do you owe me for getting that Bible for you?
There, you'll also find out the National Guard there.
Yes, they
right
want to.
here. They were helping the older people get around too.
Yeah.
Even people with wheelchairs that was going up, they were helping them go. And they were all excited. The National Guard was.
But I saw so many of the veterans would come up and hug me, and different ones, and they were crying. I mean, that.
You know,
there couldn't have been a thank you any deeper than that.
I think I shared with you guys the experience that I had when I first got there. After Jan told me where to park my car, and I dutifully did so, the first thing I had to check out was the tank.
Yeah.
And I had been thinking, you know, I wonder if there's going to be any World War II veterans that would actually, you know. And there was, you know, after taking a couple pictures for a couple minutes, I heard a gentleman say to someone else, yeah, I used to drive one of these things in Patton's Army. And I turned my head, and that was the gentleman that was featured in the Advocate article, the 92-year-old gentleman who rode beside Heath in the Jeep in the parade. Let me tell you something. This guy came to Heath. His son and daughter-in-law live in Heath. His son had made him aware that this tank was there. He and his wife came into Heath that day so that he could see that tank one more time. And, you know, I remember him saying, I can't believe I used to be able to just climb right up into one of these things. and he said, you know, you'd never be able to get me out of it if you got me in it again. But he said, if I was in that tank, I could drive it in this parade. He said, I remember it like it was yesterday. And you're talking, you know what, 70 years removed for this gentleman.
That's amazing.
Look, if something, we have an opportunity with this parade to put Heath on the map regionally for its celebration. There's only one other one that I'm aware of in the state, and that's in Findlay. It's an Armed Forces Day parade. So it's not as though, you know, these go on all over the place around us. We should be taking advantage of what we built on last year, and we can really put Heath's stamp across that day in this region if we support it and do this right.
And the veterans is going to love you for it.
Well, that's one thing that they were always so kind all through the meetings and, you know, things like that. You couldn't have asked for a better group to work for.
You had asked about where the money would come from, and I mean, why don't we use some of the vet tax money? Create tourism, so we can pull from that.
You aren't going to have the chief get in the tank again.
What's that?
You ain't gonna have the chief of police.
If the tank makes it, we'll have somebody get in it. And it has to be a law enforcement
He was up
officer.
there trying to wiggle his butt into the tank. And I told him, I said, you take your gun belt off, you might be able to make it. Shut up.
But he didn't lose anything. But I told him,
I'm
I
just
said,
saying,
you
whether
have to
it's-
get
it-
practice.
whether
He
it's
says,
that
no.
money or
I
this
said, you
money, it's
have to.
in one
He said,
pot.
well, I didn't know I could lose a finger on the thing. I said, you can lose a whole lot.
You know, Brian, I think what Tim's saying is correct from an accounting perspective.
Yeah.
Your thought, what I would say could be through resolution, you could show the body's support for that event and what it brings to the community and what it can bring into the community. By resolution, you can say what you're saying. From an accounting standpoint, it's what Tim's saying.
I just, you would like to think that some of these people that travel in, they're staying somewhere, they may not have family, they're staying in hotels, so at least we can say we're putting some of that money back towards creating tourism.
Yeah.
And to put people in beds.
Yep.
There was a guy over the weekend, a family staying here in this right April. And I knew him years ago when we first started the Air Force Base. He and I were friends. And he looked around and found my address and he found my phone number. He called me. And I spent Friday evening and Saturday evening answering questions. He wanted to know how Irving Wick was named, how Sergeant Simpson Parkway was named. And we do have a lot of history.
Yeah, we do.
Mm-hmm.
One thing too on the parade that I could do if you are targeting anything, such as the bed tax, or whether I do or not, whether you do or not doesn't make any difference. But I think when we send a letter out and we start advertising, that I will talk with all of our hotels and see if they will give a discount for anybody who stays that night. That way, it kind of encourages, or if a family member comes, we can always do a card or something up, send them that they can submit. So I know that happens with our church, and our pastor always negotiates when there's a big meeting going on. And so we could do the same thing, and so that encourages people to stay overnight.
And if you had one or two hotels that were willing to do that, I mean, they could be included as sponsors for the event.
Yeah. No, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
And the one thing that we did get a lot of compliments on was the final parade float, where we had all the sponsor names on there. They thought that was a good one, so.
Minus the Porta-John one.
I
Sorry to pick that.
I took that one.
Scab.
He knows how to do it, doesn't
The
he?
greatest thing that you did was you excluded all the politics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I
We
tried.
had one guy get in, but
Yeah.
That was
we
still.
put an end to him, but
Yeah.
Oh,
that's just,
yeah, we did, because it went to the state.
That sounded bad, you put an end to it.
Well,
Metaphorically.
Put a stop to it. Let's put a stop to it.
Doug has a way with words, doesn't he?
Yes.
I have just one final question going back to the 50th about, and I don't know what organizations all of you are a part of, but do you feel that your different nonprofit groups that you're involved in would be willing to help us with the 50th and planning on that? If we got a representative?
Tim, what do you think about Sertoma?
That's what I would.
I would think so. I mean, I don't know why they wouldn't.
I mean, we're not.
You know.
We're talking more
You know.
planning.
Planning
stuff.
is what I
We
meant.
gotta.
For instance, if we do the research on, going clear back to the beginning, now the book has a lot of all the names in it, but to find representatives for these people takes time. So I thought if we could get a representative from, and that way you spread the interests out too. Representative from the different organizations, and we have a committee meeting that
One or
way.
two people on the committee that's
Then
doing it.
It spreads out, and then I wanted to get to have possibly one of the elementaries, and more than likely it would be the grades 3 through 5 or 6. I don't know what the
5.
schools are, 5 now, and let them do some an art contest type thing. You could put art out here that'll pull it in, just little things like that. So there's plenty of planning to be done. The thoughts are there, but they're not final, and it opens up an avenue for other people to feel like they're part of the 50th, and that's what you're after.
Where you can have kids and families involved.
That's exactly right.
The bigger crowd
Yeah.
you will have, I
That's exactly,
guarantee.
yeah. That's
Any
exactly
other
right.
No
questions about it?
I mean, I don't know, we don't vote on anything here, but I saw a lot of nodding heads, so, that gives you something.
What would help you in this early stages of planning. What would it?
Just knowing that.
How would it help you from a commitment standpoint? What,
Well,
what would help
I
you?
wanna make sure before I mean, because this, once I start, it takes a lot of hard work. I'm sitting
we
at
do
that
this?
computer every day.
Not
Yeah,
tonight,
yeah.
but could we just, do an ordinance at a future committee meeting, just, appropriating the money at that point?
Well, the problem is that you're appropriating money in 2014 that would be spent in 15, and at the end of the year, what's not spent in line items is just put back into the general
If you do a
fund.
purchase order, it carries over.
Is that right?
Yeah, you carry purchase orders over.
Okay.
You just do it, put it in one purchase order, and use that
can.
purchase order
Okay.
to write anything in that
Could you
event.
make, even though you make it a purchase order, it could be for the two
You would do two
Right.
separate ones. You would
That's
do
what
two
I-
separate
yeah.
blankets, probably, right, Bob?
Well, purchase orders.
Yeah, blanket purchase orders you would do.
I want to,
You can
because I
carry,
will keep it
I carried
separate.
them over to, you know.
Once the purchase order is
She would
initiated,
need
then it
two.
can carry over, right, you need
Then we
two.
can, yeah, I want two,
Okay.
that way, you know,
Yeah,
when I'm looking up
separate.
something or having Heath check it out for me or whatever, if I'm getting, now, if I get donations, then does that go into that same account? Is that the way
It
we
would
do
have
it?
to be appropriated, just like this year. The money would go into the general fund. Remember how at the end of everything, we appropriated that
Yeah.
total amount out of the general fund into Bob's budget to cover the
Okay.
invoices that have been
Okay
paid
with
for.
that.
It would be done like
Little
that.
cleanup ordinance.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
That- Okay, that's what I want, I just don't wanna go
So
into
Bob,
all of this and then not have the support that you guys, you know, that.
Is it
really
possible,
like you to
John,
get
that it
your
would work like the
501c3.
Star Spangled Celebration where you would carry
I'd
over
really
whatever
like
was
that,
left
but-
into the next year?
That would be more an answer
Gotta get
you would
through a
have
lot
to
of
give
issues.
than myself.
I'm sorry, I didn't even hear the
I
question.
just asked, like, with the Armed Forces
That's
Dance,
okay.
this is gonna be an annual event, and she gets donations, or they get donations. Is it a possibility that if we have an overage, it would carry over to the next year and be held?
What Keith was kind of talking about,
The Star Spangled,
that was
that's
what you,
happens.
you know,
I,
if has the Friendship Club applied for a 501c3 status?
We have not applied, Mark, because we went through the parade and then I went through the hospital.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
And it's a matter of money too, and we have to have money to be able to do that. I have told them that we really, if we're going to continue doing anything for, not just this city, but for anywhere, you know, public-wise, that we really need to be working on that, but
I would encourage you to,
Is it $1,000?
probably will be 1,000.
I think that the guy that helped you with your 501c3,
Don Schoenhardt,
did he do that?
Don did it. Mhm.
There was, there's an accountant, public accountant, North Newark I cannot think of his name offhand.
up in North?
North
End?
21st Street.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn
It's on
Lovell. Glenn Lovell.
Lovell, yeah.
I think Glenn has those kinds of skills to maybe help you through that.
In reality.
In any event, that's a long process.
It is a long process. It's got a lot of pages to fill out. I mean, Dan and I have done them before, quite frankly, for the church, but it's the money is the issue. I thought that it was only gonna cost $350. Now they said that they had increased, the last that I heard, they had increased it to something like 800. So I have not done any recent research for it.
I think it's still that.
So I'll check, you know, do the best that I can with it, and I understand what you're saying. I have had them type up just some general bylaw type things. It's time, Keith. I'm retired, but I can't get past
Being
all
retired.
projects.
I understand.
I'm going from one project to another.
It's in the long run for the Friendship Club, it's gonna be best.
It will be
if-
best, and I'm not gonna, I know it's gonna take time to get it accomplished, I understand that. But it is an awful.
Deb, I don't think you got an answer to your question, did you?
Not really. That's what Brian has, how I like
Yeah.
my answer.
About the carryover.
Well, if we
And the
do
carryover.
purchase orders, and I don't spend all the money out of the purchase order, I can keep it open, but if I would close it, then that money would just go back into the general fund.
I can answer your question. if the Friendship Club were to basically, through the donations they have accepted, they basically go into the city's general fund, and they keep track of it.
Right.
So if they put $10,000 in and then spend $9,000, Jan's gonna know there's another $1,000 there. And would it need to be appropriated by this body? Yeah, it would be.
But I would think it would be for the next year's event, because that's what people donated.
Well, I'll tell what general fund money is general fund
Well,
money.
an example would have been what was it, 2 or 3 years ago when we did not have Star Spangled Celebration, and we did not have the fireworks.
Right. That's
You know, we had to pay a little bit to the fireworks company, but from the donations of that year, those donations carried over to the next year. The money was there.
Right.
Now, it still has to be appropriated, but Jenna knew, here's how much
That was
money
my
we got in
question.
donations, and so here's how much we have carrying over.
Okay, that was
Yeah.
my question.
And I gave, Keith had a complete report, and you guys did too.
Yeah.
I gave that to you, so you know exactly where everything was, and what needed to be accomplished at that point, so.
Okay.
I think that accountability is very important, particularly if you are going to be working with carrying anything over, you gotta know.
Any other questions about that? All right, we will move on to other items. Bob?
That's it. No, I'm gonna give a little tidbit of information so everybody can go home. I don't know that guy. In 1960,
Signs all over town.
He's a rare form today.
It even matches, they look professional.
in 1965, when the city Heath became a city, we were the 196th city in the state of Ohio, and our population was 6,066. If I hadn't lived here, it'd been 6,065.
If I hadn't been here, I was here too.
Yeah, I was here.
Tim was.
I was 6 years old watching that parade at Fulton Middle.
I was in the parade.
Did you see him?
We had a fire show. We had a
No.
Kelly's fire show.
I was old enough to watch it.
I think we won the trophy for
You
best,
ducked tomatoes,
best
didn't you?
commercial food.
You ducked his tomatoes.
I was too. That was the Heath Day parade. You used to have
all.
an annual Heath Day parade.
So we're coming up on a campaign year.
Yeah,
Tim's gonna get in trouble.
I wasn't signed here. I did that.
Yeah, there's a disclaimer on it.
I got something.
Hey, Tim, next year's an election year. Is there a disclaimer on your sign?
No, I don't know. Someone sold me the house
He's
for
gonna
$1
rent
or
his house
something. I went on vacation. I came back and Debbie
2 guys in the truck
Debbie-
scheduled to come this week, right, Tim? Start moving into it.
Debbie said, "You got another house over there? Get so."
All over.
That's funny. That's
You
good.
never know, do you?
That's good.
It was vandalism because when we took
When you
the
took that one
signs off
You
of
take that
it,
one off.
Yeah.
it tore our sign apart. So
Yeah, I was not
it'd be nice
pleased.
if we ever did it.
I was
We
not
could
pleased to
buy
see
some
that
new
at all. I,
It's not appropriate. All right, what else you got, Tim?
Oh, the bike path, the bridge, the trestle bridge.
Right.
Have you walked across it recently? Last time I walked across it, which would have been about 10 days ago or so, there's one board that is completely rotted out. I mean, there's a whole pretty good sized hole, and the board beside it is really rotten. If I would put my weight on it, I can go right through it. I mean, it's
Good thing the water's deep.
And I was going to do one of them things. I wonder if I can bust this, and I decided not to do it. You know, but
there was a hole in one. Is this a different one, Tim?
I don't know. I'm just saying, like 2 weeks ago or so, last time I walked, I forgot all about it. Like, you know how you say, I'm going to call Bob about it, and I forgot. And then Debbie reminded me. She sent me a text ago, remember to tell Bob. So I remember to tell Bob.
There's
On the trestle bridge, there's one board that it has a hole in it, and right next to it, that board is completely rotten. It looks like a solid board. You can just tell it's completely rotted out, and you can go right through.
Hey, Bob, one other thing. I don't want us to lose focus on the idea of the map of the bike path.
Right.
And also,
Well, we gotta decide where we're starting from and all that stuff.
Yeah, I told Paige hounded me about that too. And I
Then
said,
we'll-
I talked to
then we'll
Whitey
take
about
it.
it.
yeah, Paige's idea of those quarter-mile markers, that's a really solid
Yeah.
idea.
Really.
I don't want to lose focus on getting those things accomplished, because I think that would really be nice for the bike paths.
And how do we, do you know where all those marks are?
Clean up and maintenance.
I mean, where we would mark the mark, or we would
Well,
do
some
a
areas,
wheel,
yeah,
or
it does.
would we wheel it, or what?
I think what we would do is probably wheel it just to double check it. I mean, if we're gonna get accurate, let's
Right.
get accurate. And so, I mean, I did it from the aerial photo, but you lose a little bit of accuracy in that. But
I think
I
there's
think
there's a
if
thing.
you, me, Whitey,
App for
Paige
your
get together,
phone
we can do it.
that would GPS it.
Yeah, there's an app.
There's an app on your phone that you can GPS it. So.
I think it's called Cycle Buddy or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, but the problem is you have a distance like this table. If we took a tape measure and measured this table, it'd read something. You do the GPS, it'd read something, okay? If you take this table and have it go up a hill and down to where Mark's at, okay? The distance is not gonna be the same, because you
Because it's just
went up.
longitude,
Yeah.
latitude.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
right.
so any distance you do with aerial photo stuff is just straight, like we
Straight
pull
line.
tight
Yeah.
between 2 points. But if you,
It wouldn't
do
be accurate.
up a little bit, now it doesn't add that much, okay? But if you made a truss here, like
Yeah.
for a roof,
Right.
and we went up to the ceiling and down, we're still the same distance apart, but if you had to go all the way to the ceiling and back down, you would travel a lot further distance.
Yep.
That's where you gain,
So that's
A little bit of footage
You
is
should wheel it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the other thing is, that path, the railroad track is pretty straight, but the ones that go through
Yeah.
the woods and stuff,
Down,
if you
yeah.
do the center line and go through, it's gonna be a little different than if you try to
Yeah.
Yeah.
do it, because
Yeah.
you're not straight line. So
Yeah.
how accurate you want to get when people run in,
I
he
think,
says
yeah.
quarter mile. Do they really know they ran a quarter mile? Maybe they only ran instead of 0.25 it was 0.26 or 0.34. But you say it's a quarter mile, I mean,
Dick wants accuracy when he's out there.
Dick wants to make sure he's
Last
accurate.
time I ran, it was pretty
When you hit the wall, man, you want to know you hit that wall.
That's a great
Bob,
thing.
that's probably the best way to handle it, is to wheel it, walk it off.
Alright, anything else
I
for Carly's
don't-
recommendation, Shai?
I didn't read it.
We will adjourn at 6:56.
Oh, okay.
Are we done?
It's almost
Yes.
Everybody need 5 minutes, or we're
Yeah,
just gonna move on here?
What's wrong? You just say it was autocorrect.
5 minutes.
We'll start financing stuff.
Well, 7:02.
I'm out of here.
5 minute break.
Thanks, everybody.
Jack, thank you for coming. Never go. Appreciate it. Jan, thanks.
Did you get your?
Take care.
Did Jen give you that?
Yeah, someone's back.
Yes, thank you. Yep, I got it. Thanks.
That's what the guys think of.
I appreciate it.
Oh,
Thank you.
Well, I don't worry about it.
I know where you live.
You guys deserve it.
I don't know if we deserved anything, but I appreciated it very much.
The veterans are always here for you.
I appreciate that.
Even on that, used to be, 50th anniversary, I can get the guys to come up and raise the flag. On
At the
that,
ceremony.
the veterans will raise it.
Okay.
Nice touch.
Hey, spell trestle for me. 2 S's and 2 L's.
Like Jim Trestle.
Trussell. Right? It's not trestle, it's a trussel, isn't it?
TRUSSEL.
One out.
I think
Two
it's
S's,
E.
two U's.
I don't think it's a U. I don't think, but I
TRES. It's like Jim Trestle.
think so.
Spell trestle, but
TRESSEL. We only got one railroad track.
so is it E or U? Like trestle?
Well, it's roof truss, TRUSS.
Then it's a trestle. Is it a trestle?
Who are you texting? Would
Craig.
Would they know? Would he know the difference?
Craig probably would.
Would he care that?
He's not.
Timber roof truss. A timber roof truss is a structural framework of timbers designed to bridge the space above a room to provide support for a roof. Trusses usually occur at regular intervals, linked by longitudinal timbers such as purlins.
Well, I just
That-
Googled.
that's
I just
not a Brits
Googled.
trestle.
I
Put in
just-
Brits trestle.
I just Googled and it's TRESTLE.
TLE, really?
Right here.
And that's where.
Why are you wanting to know?
I'm texting Craig.
Oh,
That would be a trestle.
well, that's a bridge.
TRESTLE.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about what Tim was talking about on the roof.
No, we're talking
A
about the
truss.
Trestle, not a trestle.
Oh, all right.
We're talking about that, man.
We were
We're
both
talking
right.
about that.
TRESTLE.
TRESTLE. Yeah.
I remember I did that 5K they do, you know, the Heath
Heath
thing.
5K, yeah.
And I do the big map and thing for it. And the first time I produced that map, I put Trestle Bridge, like Coach Trestle instead of Trestle. You know what I mean? Now that you see, now you tell me how it's spelled, I remember.
President Trestle now.
Okay. And I had to change.
He loves it.
That's how you spell it, right, then?
That is funny.
Yes.
You saw what
Anyway, I
that awesome.
look at that.
Got a picture there.
That is funny.
We had two saints.
Yeah, I spelled it that
Every
way
year, and
on
we
the
had the
map.
other saint chart too.
That's why I spelled it on the map the first time. No one ever caught it.
Yeah.
The next year when I was doing the map, I looked at it. That ain't right. It's spelled like that. Like Russell Tessel. Like a Tessel Bridge.
I'm glad that went well.
Russell Trestle.
Audra was working last night.
So I looked it up. She worked.
Yeah,
She worked
Yeah.
on the final shit.
And then there's like Russ.
I didn't know
Maybe
what
it's
T.
so high.
She was in
I
the
I'm just saying.
And then she had to clean up afterwards. She's there.
Scared I was gonna dump behind the grass.
Anyhow,
Guess in Ohio we
I'm assuming Debbie must have walked in and seen that where Jackson didn't remind you about the bus will be there.
There's places in the grass there too, so they might really think
I was going to ask you another question, Bob.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's gonna be going up there, and they're gonna be very down to earth, and they're gonna, you know, it's like.
We had one together.
I don't know.
Sadly, we don't have to beat everybody, but just to me.
We walk out, walk out.
I'm curious to know how that worked out.
I wouldn't have.
Tim.
Yes, it is.
Tim,
What?
I'm telling you how it worked out.
Okay. For us or for them?
For them. It would have to because they didn't stay.
Yeah. Well, I noticed they weren't there, you know, Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah, she pulled out.
What are you talking about?
Kind of.
Well, that's, I mean, I heard the one guy.
You know what, Tim? Here was the problem. And, you know, it's Core Nutrition that was doing it, right? And they do the Herbalife, you know, protein supplement shakes, right? Like the meal replacement shakes. And that's good. I mean, that's good. I drink those things. That's fine. But well, the feedback that I heard from people was they had hoped or had thought that they were more like fruit smoothies.
Yeah, that's what I thought the first time I
And
bought
so
them.
when they got it, the consistency of those shakes is not like a fruit smoothie.
No.
And that's right.
Yeah.
And they didn't like it.
So, see, because it says, so Debbie goes, "We try one, we try one, and they go, have you ever tried one before?" They start talking, while they're making it, they're telling us all this health stuff, right? And all of a sudden it's almost like, lady, you're going to lose a sale here, you keep talking, because she's talking about living healthy and all this.
Yeah.
I just want a cool, refreshing.
If they, that's right.
You know, and it wasn't. You know?
They, unfortunately, they also used that as an opportunity, I think, to try to push their business. Kind of like what they do at Core Nutrition.
Yeah.
And that really wasn't the right setting for that. As a matter of fact, I wonder if through Gummer, if we got, or I guess, you know, we could buy, you know, a couple blenders. I wonder what kind of sales we would have of fruit smoothies if we took, you know, strawberry banana or, you know, like, you know, and in the concession stand blend fruit smoothies because a lot of people were disappointed, you know, when they got, because that's not what they thought they were getting.
Right. Yeah, it wasn't refreshing. It was chalky.
Yes.
I mean, you know.
Yeah. I mean, now I'll go to. There's another place like that called Carpe Diem that's over by Millennium Hairstyles. They're on top of 22nd Street where Jamco used to be.
Yep.
And I'll go there, I'll get one for breakfast, or I'll go and I'll get one for lunch, and they're a meal replacement, but I know what I'm getting.
Yeah.
People were not expecting that, nor really wanting that type of thing from that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it didn't really fly.
Ready for finance? Is everyone?
Everybody here?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, we'll call it to order 7:04. Everybody have a copy? Linson needs a copy. Two legislative requests. First one, enter into an agreement with Licking County for the maintenance and improvement of Thornwood Drive. Mr. Heffley, any other comments?
No, sir, I just think it's something that needs to be done.
I think it's a win for us.
Yeah, I do too.
Any other comments? Okay. Second item, not on your agenda, but under Deb's committee, appropriate $33,450 within the capital improvement fund, authorizing director the mayor enter into an agreement with Duralast Roofing, re-roof park maintenance building. Deb, any other comments?
Yeah, we covered it.
My only did we get any other bids, or is this the only?
State bid.
State bid.
State bid.
This is a state bid. Okay. All right. Other items. Heath.
Oh, well, we kind of had maybe a first failure with eBay, if you want to call it that. And it's not a big deal. And honestly, I'll share this story. That dump truck that's at the back of the parking lot was the street department 90 dump truck that I posted on eBay, and about a week ago it sold with a bidder from Texas that had a zero feedback history and had been involved with eBay for 2 days. And he called me up in much better English than I can speak Spanish, but not such that I could understand him very well. He was kind of excited and kind of asked if I could come pick him up in Boston, and that we were only a couple hours away from Boston. And the more I talked to this guy, I envisioning a guy emptying his savings account with the only $2,000 that he has to his name, and coming up here, he intended to bring the tools necessary to fix the carburetor that I described as probably gunked up, and he envisioned driving it to Texas.
Oh,
Oh my.
And I kind of talked him out of it, and he suggested that I envisioned him getting all the way to Hebron.
A little ways still to go to Texas.
Yeah.
You were optimistic, huh?
And anyway, I told him that he could follow through, but if he wanted to be let off the bid without being reported to eBay, that I would let him do that. And he said he wanted to think about it. I'm thinking, oh, okay. And he called me back, and he talked about me being a wonderful Christian man. He wanted to shake my hand someday, and he talked to his wife, and they agree that they probably shouldn't have bid on this, and he wants to meet me someday. And so I went to the back.
Is there a song about that? Please come to Boston.
I bet Nashville. This is some great material for Nashville. I contacted the back bidder, which is one of the protocols in eBay, and didn't get a response. And I contacted the next back bidder, which was for some reason the same amount, would have only been $25 less. So
Didn't get any response.
didn't get any response from that one either.
Come on, Nick. Why didn't you call back?
So I have relisted it, started it over again. If it sells, which it will, they will refund my listing fee for the second time around. So who knows? It may go for more money this time or less. I don't have a clue.
Did you somehow notify those other two that it has been relisted?
I did not.
Is there a way to
What
do
was
that?
what was the winning bid before, or what?
$2,025.
Oh, $225. Okay.
So,
$2,025.
What's the listing fee?
$53 and change. So anyway, it's relisted. I notified everybody by city email, so you can watch it if you want. We'll see what happens. I just couldn't
Good
let that.
conscience sell
No,
to it,
I
yeah.
just couldn't do it. So
How much scrap metal's in that thing?
About
I don't know.
About $1,200? I'll give you $1,000.
You know, Audra gets her license probably in November, but I'm not sure.
Perfect.
I feel safe with her in that thing. I don't know how appreciative she would be of it.
I want to see her do the maneuverability test.
Yeah.
We're going to power steering if you need to do her push-ups.
I know, yeah.
the item 2 of other items, a few weeks ago, I sold the K9, I think 2008 Dodge Charger that MD had, and in the back of that was a pretty expensive piece of equipment where they'd taken the rear seats and the door panels out and inserted this kennel that is made to fit that vehicle, and I think those cost like $3,000 or more. They are fabricated to fit, and I posted that on eBay the same time that I posted the dump truck, and it wasn't getting very many people watching it, and getting no interest, and was getting no bids. So after 5.5, 6 days of a 7-day auction, I've been talking to John Mason. He kept asking, what's that gonna, is that gonna go for anything? And I was afraid somebody local would, I think it was made of aluminum. I was afraid somebody local was gonna bid 99 cents and win it and then cart the thing off for scrap. Anyway, John Mason got a call from somebody in North Carolina that described his police agency as the poorest police agency in North Carolina.
South Carolina.
And was it South Carolina? All right. Anyway, they agreed to pay $700. To back up a little bit, the guy that bought the Charger bought the kennel with the Charger, but looked it over and saw no use for it, so he abandoned it here. So it didn't even belong to us, and we sold it for $700. John Mason sold it for $700, and it's gone and out of our hair. So there's a good eBay story. Yeah, thank you. It was abandoned equipment that has now sold, and that money is already in the general fund. Those other 2 items remain tabled until you advise me to remove them.
Anything else for finance?
Mary, I wasn't here last Monday. Did you do anything? I mean, the police contracts, anything, updates on that or anything?
No.
We don't need a executive session.
Okay.
Okay, we are adjourned at 7:13.
Alright. Want to do caucus real quick? Yeah. Alright. Invocation is special order proclamation, that you, Mayor, on the
Correct, on the roundup, yeah. I'm assuming that's up there.
petition and communications, the liquor, Jeff, you do both of those?
Yeah, I need, separate motions?
Yeah.
For each one?
Do each one separate and
The
then.
Red Lobster one, I think if you guys saw in the news maybe a couple months back or so, Darden kind of divested Red Lobster, sold that off. So I think it's just like a name change.
Yeah.
The other one is for the place right across the street from us, the MMA themed dance club.
What a great investment.
It's not Captain Jack.
Slam dancing, I guess, huh?
Submission. It's not Captain
So this
Jack anymore,
is,
it's submission.
this is,
Submission.
you know, like a
I don't think I
submission
wanna
rule.
go.
This is Mark Matheny's little brain
I
cell.
know.
How many times has that place
Okay.
opened its doors in the 20 years I've been here? Wow.
Okay, so Jeff's gonna do both of those.
Well, with pleasure, yes.
All right. Introduction of ordinances, the first one's 68, 2014. The paving of Sarah, that could probably wait till the next time. Now, 69, we need to suspend the rules and pass that one. So Doug, will you do that on 69? Will you suspend the rules?
Yeah.
Since it says emergency, suspend the rules. What's the ordinance 69?
That's Thornwood Drive.
Yeah. Suspend the rules
Yeah,
I got 3 of them.
and then adopt.
and then adopt, yes. And then ordinances on the second reading, the median, the irrigation system. Any questions or anything on that? That's, guess it might as well be you two, Doug.
Which one? 67.
Are we calling that a street or are we calling that a park?
Street guys handle that, right?
Street.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, so Doug, you do that one.
Right?
67?
park guys
Yeah.
did it first.
Oh, okay.
What about the paving of state routes?
The 69, or 68?
Just-
We don't need to rush.
Yeah,
Or do we?
both of them that are on the first reading, the one has to get back to ODOT as soon as possible.
This one, the 13?
Yes.
Yeah.
They
Number
need to
68?
get that back to them by early September. Yeah, 68.
All right, but then both of them.
That's a preliminary legislation.
That one you just need to waive the second on that one.
Yeah, and also 69.
But suspend
So
the
wait,
other.
so council's gonna meet again on September 2nd. Is that not soon enough?
Well, why don't we just do it now? Get it done.
All right.
If you're so inclined.
So,
Please.
10.
On 69, suspend the rules and then adopt after you suspend. The difference between suspend and waive is the one says it's an emergency. And what's the- All right, and then resolutions on first reading, the budget thing, so that can just be held a second. And then reports of committees or mayor and everybody. Anything else? Anybody have any?
This resolution just goes to second reading, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or the now, I mean, what, all the blanks.
Sure do.
Any other questions about anything else?
You saw where that cut,
All right,
guy
yeah.
offered Darden $5 billion for that.
Wow.
Change.
Well, you know, I
They
can
took the sun
understand.
down, it's not my house anymore.
Well, when I was a kid, the only red lobster, you know, in Lancaster, the only closest red lobster to us was at East
Good.
Mall, you know, on Hamilton Road there.
Cheers.
And I'd go there, you know, for my birthday. The only other seafood restaurant around in Lancaster on East Main, and it's not even there anymore. It's